Hey guys, welcome to Latino Vegano, and this is episode number 40, and I'm your host Roger. So we almost at the end of the year. Yeah, I was recently celebrating my birthday, so it's been great. So I'm so happy and grateful that I have this platform so I can express myself and share amazing interviews and amazing conversations with a lot of my good friends in the vegan industry. And this week, man, I have an amazing interview for you guys. It's Vegan Danielle. Vegan Danielle, wow, she have a wonderful story. I highly suggest episode number 52 of her podcast. Well, yeah, she's a podcaster. She's been vegan since 2015. She's from San Diego, California, and her story is just amazing and marvelous and great. She's got how she turned it around to become what she is right now, and she's doing great things for not only for the environment, for the community, but also for veganism and the animals, and of course her health. She's recently in training for a competition, which is something that we were able to talk about as well. So I'm not gonna prolong this intro. I really want you guys to listen to this interview or this conversation that I have with Vegan Danielle. So let's go.
latinoyvegano.com.
We're just gonna jump right into it. I know that I know you have told your story many times, so I'm not gonna make you tell your story again because you actually have a great episode 52 of your podcast that you went over your entire story. That was amazing. I actually listened to the entire thing from the beginning to the end.
Well,
Like,
bravo. That was about 2 hours.
no, but it was great. I was like, Mom, like your story is like literally you can literally make a movie out of your life.
Uh,
Have you ever thought about that?
I started writing a book.
Did you?
I put it down a little bit ago because I got really busy with work, but it's something that I was actually considering turning it into an audio book. So I'm going to continue writing that. And man, a movie would be like something of my dreams just because I like not so much in an ego way, just that I
Yeah,
know there are other people out there suffering.
right.
And I think it's powerful to say, hey, I've been there too.
Absolutely, absolutely. That will be amazing. And let us know when the book or the audiobook is ready so we can plug it.
Yeah, thanks.
So if you could change one thing from your past, what would that be?
If I could change one thing, wow. Ah, I try to think like it's hard to pick between two because one is a
Right.
financial thing. One is, well,
Mm,
I wish I wouldn't have been so silly with my money and saved up some of it when I was making more. But really, I think it more importantly would be kind of a psychological thing, an emotional
yeah.
thing. And I don't know if I'd say that I wish I went vegan earlier. Of course I do, but I
Right.
don't think at that time in that moment I was ready and I don't think I would have stuck with it. So I
Okay.
honestly I think just overall compassion is the one thing that I would change. I was a very angry teenager, very angry 20-year-old, and because of my anger and resentment, I think I might have missed out on better friendships or caused a lot of wreckage or
Right.
things that are harder to repair later.
Yeah, I can see that. So you turned vegan in 2015, is that correct?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It was this month actually. It was right before Thanksgiving,
Yeah.
in 2015.
Yeah. And how was that transition for you? It was a difficult transition.
No, it wasn't for me at all because my
Hmm.
diet and lifestyle before I went vegan was not the standard American diet. It was in my early 20s, but I got more into fitness and yeah, that's probably the biggest thing, fitness and health when I was like I don't know, probably mid 20s is when it really stuck out to me. And so my diet then was brown rice, chicken, broccoli, the kind of fitness bodybuilder quote unquote diet. And so
Right.
transitioning for me, I got such a connection to the animals
Mm,
that I was just like, no way. I don't care if it's the best food in the world, which it's not that it was, but I it meant more to me
mhm.
than the taste. And there was just this sort of switch in my mind that went from, oh my God, this tastes so good to like, oh my God, these are living,
Creatures.
creatures that have feelings and empathy and emotions and we're torturing them for what. So it wasn't hard for me at all. I know some
Hmm.
people have a lot of trouble going through a transition. For me, I wouldn't even really call it a transition. I donated a lot of my food to my neighbor. I just kind of went vegan overnight, and a few things that I had left in my pantry and fridge, like whey powder and not meat, but I think there was some cheese in there. And I said, well, I'll just finish it because I have it, but I just won't buy
Right.
it again.
Yeah. Yeah. I always talk about that in the sense that for me, it was a very similar story when it comes to like, I didn't even like call it transition. Like I literally went vegan cold turkey, no pun intended. Like I, I just got introduced to veganism from a health standpoint that didn't resonate with me much because I was on my early 20s. Also, I was, I don't know, maybe 23 years old. So like, I'm not thinking about health. I'm a basketball player. I'm an athlete. I do all of these things. So what is it about health that I need vegan for? But I was so curious about the whole lifestyle that I started researching and came across with some of the PETA video. And when I saw the slaughterings and how they
Mm.
treat the cows and the pigs and all that, I was like, that's what I'm eating? I was like, this is it. That's it. At that age, I mean, it just kind of clicked. And I was like, okay, I'm going vegan. How? I had no idea. I'm just gonna do it. I'm just gonna do it. So is that means that I have to eat rice all day with two tomatoes? They'll be it. So I got sick, and by getting sick, the first thing people say is, "Oh, you don't have meat in your diet."
Oh, I know. I've heard that so many times too. It's like, oh well,
Yeah.
you probably got a cold because you're vegan. I'm like, or because everyone's getting a cold and it's that time of year. Like,
I know, right? So it's interesting how that happened. Do you had a some kind of inspiration mentor during that time that kind of lead you the way or explain more about veganism?
um, not necessarily. I was very new to Instagram at the time. I
Uh-huh.
probably had like 200 followers, and I didn't really pay attention to it at all. And
Yeah.
I remember reading Dr. Greger's book, How Not to Die,
Mm.
and I remember kind of diving into research, and I don't remember any particular doctors from way back then from when I first started. Um, but I remember, it's actually funny. One of the first people I started following on YouTube was Freely, the banana girl.
Yeah.
And
I
it was
know.
like, I'm glad I found her when I did, because when I found her, she was like super healthy, raw, blah, blah, blah. Like she seemed a little crazy eating all bananas
Right.
all day, but it was before she kind of went through her quote unquote like crazy episode and she had a issue with her relationship, whatever. I don't know the whole story, but yeah, I caught her at a good time. And I just thought, well, this girl is literally surviving off of fruits and
Banana.
vegetables. Yeah, like literally mostly bananas all day. And so I thought, well, I don't know if I'd call her an inspiration. I guess a
Right.
little bit, but she was definitely something that changed my mindset of like what survival meant. And I just thought, well, gosh, she's not only surviving, but she's thriving. And if I'm eating a whole bunch of different plants, I can surely do this.
Absolutely. Really the banana girl. I don't remember her. She used to like 18 bananas in one day or something like
Oh,
that.
crazy, crazy. And she's always super thin too. And I'm like, how,
Yeah.
my bodybuilder mentality was like, how are you eating so many carbs and being thin?
Uh-huh, exactly.
Oh,
So if you can summarize your journey with one word, what that will be.
one word. Oh boy, crazy. Man, I wait, are you just talking about the vegan journey or my whole life journey?
Both. Let's do both. So give me two words now. One for your journey, the vegan journey, and one for your regular
Okay,
life
so
journey.
yeah, for the whole life journey, I'd say crazy. My life has been a roller coaster.
Yeah.
Good and bad. And I'd say the vegan journey, one word, probably inspirational. I
Hmm.
think when I first started opening my ears and my eyes and listening to people's stories and watching documentaries and um just kind of allowing myself to be educated, I was just like blown away with the information that seemed to be hidden from me. And it was just, I don't know, it became, of course there were times of depression when I realized stuff that was happening, but then there would be times of like joy and I guess it's a little bit of a roller coaster too, but
Yeah.
more so on the good side.
Okay, great, great. Danielle, so a lot of people usually go vegan for the health benefit. So we call it plant-based diet.
Hmm.
Um, so from your experience, from your perspective, what advice can we give those folks that, kind of introduced to veganism or to a plant-based lifestyle, but they haven't made the connection with the animal aspect or the earth aspect. So what kind of advice do we give those guys in that sense, since you already have the connection from the animal side and allows you to remain vegan, and you probably remain vegan for the rest of your life, same way it happened with me. We tend to see sometimes when people try a plant-based lifestyle, and for specific reasons, maybe to reverse some kind of disease or to lose weight. Once they accomplish those goals, it's like, okay, I'm back to my old ways.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think you almost kind of answered that in the way that you asked the question, because
Damn
when
it.
you think of like, I'll go further. So when you think of plant-based, or you think of a diet in quotes, right? People cheat on their diets. People,
Exactly.
they'll do a diet for a month, they'll do it for 6 months if they're lucky. Most people don't last that long. But it's with a diet, the motive is health, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
that's why you're doing it. But vegan is about a lifestyle. And so
Right.
for me, I feel that understanding what happens to our environment, to our planet, because of the animals that we're consuming, understanding that face, that goes to that bacon, quote unquote, and understanding really what goes on. Like for me, if I have too many drinks and I decide to have a cheat night, my cheat night is a Beyond Burger, like I'll still indulge in that. But
Right.
like for somebody that's just on a diet, they have this like, oh
Mm,
well, it's just one night. Well, sure, but a lot of times that one night turns into, well, I screwed up anyhow, so I might as well keep going, right? But
right.
if you understand the part of the animals, and even if you do make that mistake and you eat animal products while you're first starting to go vegan, or even further along your journey, it's easier to go back. It's
Mm,
easier to understand, this is my why, right? My why is the animals. It's not, I mean, health is a benefit,
correct. Correct.
So yeah, I think it's important for everybody that's starting out on a vegan journey, or even if they're into it a little bit, if their motive is health or environment, that they really need to just, I know it's hard, but they need to watch one of those documentaries that really shows them what happens, or go to one of those, Save Movement is a great organization that allows people to bear witness to pigs or cows or chickens that are on their way to slaughter. And it's insane. Like I've been to the pig ones quite a few times in LA,
Mm-hmm.
and I thought I prepared myself for everything I was going to witness. And it's crazy. It's crazy. Like I remember
Mm,
leaving there, just I didn't even have words in my head. I'm driving back from LA to San Diego, and it was like I was frozen. Like
mm.
I didn't know how to have emotion because I was so angry, and there were so many animals that were suffering, and I was only witnessing one night at one location.
Can you
And it just
imagine?
blew up in my mind of how many animals are going through this every
Right.
single second of our day. And something like that, I don't think you can forget. I don't think
Right.
you could do that and then go eat bacon after that. Like
Exactly.
it's crazy.
Yeah. It's the impact, the shock. It's just too.
Yeah.
It's too much. Yeah. Yeah. And tell us a little bit more of your activism. What other type of activism have you been part of? I think it would be a good segue now that you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks. So I mean, because of COVID, there
Mm-hmm.
hasn't been as many opportunities to do things lately. But I would say, going back to the Save movement, so they're a nonprofit organization. They have chapters all over. I think there's even one in Canada, but I know they're all over the United States. I think they might
Mm-hmm.
even be in a couple other countries. But it's called is bear witness, so everything is legal. They don't cross any property grounds or anything. But
Okay.
I'll just explain my personal experience, because I'm not a I'm not like an employee or a volunteer for the actual movement. I've just done stuff with them. So
Right.
at the LA location, we go to Farmer John's slaughterhouse, which is, it's crazy. It's literally like a mile and a half away from the Staples Center. So people associate
No
Staples Center with
way.
the Lakers, and yeah,
Right.
like it's crazy. There's hotels and clubs and nightlife and stuff everywhere. And the Staples Center, one of the biggest, monumental sports arenas
Absolutely.
in the United States.
Yeah.
And about a mile and a half north, in a little, industrial area called Vernon, is Farmer John Slaughterhouse. And that location alone kills 10,000 pigs a day, every single day. And these pigs often travel from across, a lot of them come from North Carolina, Smithfield Farms. 3 days travel usually. they're going through extreme heat in the summer,
Mm, mm.
going through Arizona at 120 degrees. And in the winter, they're going through the Rockies at 10 degrees, sometimes below zero in a metal truck with holes in it. So they have no protection. Many of the times we would see them arriving on the truck either dead or foaming at the mouth or with cuts. And, it's terrible.
It's like
It's
a horror movie.
terrible. It seriously is. And I was so afraid to do that, like, because I was just so afraid of my own feelings. And I thought, I can't handle that. And then something had switched in me. One of the photographers for that specific site, his name is Bobby. He was on my podcast last year, or actually 2 years ago now. And he said, well, why don't you just come up for one? I'll be there. And I was like, okay. So I started going, and it was something that I felt, okay, well, now I can use this opportunity to show others. So I would
Hmm.
take some videos and some photos and whatever, and put them on Instagram to show others. And it was quite incredible how many people reached out that weren't vegan that said, oh my God, like, I can't believe this is going on. Now, if they stopped eating animals after that, I don't know, but
Right.
at least it was a little seed planted. And we're allowed we have an agreement with that police department where they allow us to give water to the pigs for about 1 minute for each truck. So not all of them get water because you can't reach the ones on the upper deck anyways, but
Right.
on the lower one, once they realize it's water, they'll go for it really quick. And they, haven't had any water or food in 3 days. So it's crazy. That is the most intense activism I've ever done. And
Mm.
the save movement also does a cow save and a chicken save here in, like, it's LA County. It's a little different area. I have not attended those yet. I'd like to, just to really understand the full picture, but it's crazy. And I guess the other side that I've done before COVID, before LA Animal Save, was Anonymous for the Voiceless. And for
Okay.
anybody that's not
Uh,
familiar with that, we all kind of hold TVs of slaughterhouse footage and stand in a public area, and we allow people to come by. We don't ever tell people, come watch this, but if they come up to the video, we ask them, what do you think you're witnessing here? What do you think's going on? And that was quite incredible to me too, because there were so many people. And I live in San Diego, where people are so aware and health conscious and all these words. And I would show people and I'd say, do you understand what's going on here? And a lot of the responses was, oh, this must be like something terrible from like Africa or something, and you're like, no,
no.
this is LA, or this is Mississippi, or this,
Right.
somewhere in the United States. And they'd be like,
No
oh,
way.
well, that's not everywhere. You must have picked the worst footage. It's like, no, this is 98% of all animals in America come from this
Mm.
exact condition. And I think people don't want to believe it, and it's easier to disassociate, but you get that one person that comes up and they say, that maybe they start crying and they're like, what? Like, what am I doing? And that, to me, like, I get chills, like, thinking about it, because it's like that one person may change 5 people. They may change 1,000 people, maybe it's just themselves, but it's one more person that's not going to eat animals.
Yeah, I mean, I remember I used to go to California a lot. I live in Texas, but I used to go to California a lot, and I'll tell you that in a different story. But well, honestly, it's like I was dating someone in California, yes, and I used to travel a lot. And I remember one time, me and her, we were driving from LA to San Jose because she went to school in San Jose.
Mhm.
And she was like, oh, she was pointing it out. She knew I was vegan, and that's the reason why we didn't last, by the way.
I've heard that story.
And she could deal with my veganism, whatever that means.
Yeah.
But she was pointing out all the slaughterhouses on the way to San
Yeah.
Jose. I was like, this is crazy. Like, why do you first? I don't even want to see that. That's depressing. It's like a sad story. But she was just saying, like, yeah, there's a slaughterhouse right there. She just keep pointing it out. It was like, it's horrible. Like, y'all have a beautiful scenery, but you have the flip side is this. This is like the bad, like the horrible part of it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. I lived in San Jose area when I was like 17. And so I'd done
Yeah.
that drive from LA before. And I had no idea back then. And I
Right.
remember, gosh, maybe last year, I think, I had a friend that actually rescued a calf from one of those. I don't
Yeah.
know if it was a slaughterhouse or a cattle ranch or something,
Right.
but it was a factory farm situation. And
Mm-hmm.
they were just like, this is the crazy part, is like, if an animal gets injured, they everybody's looking at these animals as something to make profit, right? They're
Correct.
items. It's like a chair. It's not
Yeah.
the same as a cat or a dog. And so if that item becomes damaged and no longer profitable,
Right.
they throw it in the trash. I mean, they don't even kill these animals. They have things called kill piles where they literally just throw them all in like a ditch that they dig alive, injured on top of each other, and let them rot and starve to death. You know, it's crazy to me. And when
Hmm.
I started learning these kind of things, I'm like, I could not believe that humanity was capable of this. I'm
Yeah.
like, this is like, you would go to prison if this were a dog or a
Right.
cat, right? But we do this to millions of animals and it's nothing. It's food, you know, whatever. And it's, yeah, it's insane.
Yeah, I know it is. It is. It is. And that's the reason why people think that vegans are extreme, but we're just passionate
Yeah.
about this. We just don't like it. We can't tolerate this abuse, and we're trying to stop it some way and somehow. Either with our voice, with our activism, it don't matter. But we just want to stop it, and then automatically they categorize us being too extreme and too crazy or whatever they want to call us. But
Yeah.
yeah, but
Yeah.
we'll continue fighting this fight because there's a lot of work to do. But I know we're making small little changes, small little steps. But we would love it to be a lot quicker, a lot faster. So
Oh, yes. I know. Unfortunately, we have giant industries and corporations that have bigger
behind,
voices because they have more
right?
money that are fighting against us. But
Exactly.
I mean, we're a strong group though. You know, that's the thing is we might be a small minority, but we're a strong
Right.
group and we tend to stick together and we tend to, you know, all keep on pushing for stuff. So I think
Correct.
our voices are being heard. I just like you said, I wish it was a little faster.
Yeah, absolutely. So Neil, I mean, there's one thing I really like about you. You have this non-apologetic. You're such a, like a badass rock
ah,
star. You have this moxie in you, and honestly, I think that the community needs more, not more you because you're unique, but they need people to be more open about themselves and to be real to some extent. Not because I think the misconception that they have about vegans is like we all these hippie people, these all crazy people, right?
yeah.
But but we consider ourselves average or normal people to whatever standard you want to call it. Where did that come from? Like, where do you got that? I mean, do you ever have this personality? Do you ever be always been that way? Do you have to deal with insecurities in the past, and then that turns you
Oh
around
yeah.
to yeah,
Yeah, you know, it's funny. It's a really good question. I've always kind of been like a quote unquote rebel. Like I finished high school early. I moved out at 17. I didn't
yeah,
care what problems I might have. I was just like, go, go, go. I'm going to do whatever I want. I'm not saying that's
right,
good because it also caused some destructive behavior. But overall, though, I've kind of
yeah,
just been that person that's like, I'll listen to you, but like, I'm going to also
do my own
think
thing,
of, yeah, like I'll listen to what you have to say. I might agree, but like I'm still gonna probably learn the hard way because I don't like to follow direction very well
right?
sometimes. But yeah, I'd say I've always kind of been that extreme person. I competed in snowboarding when I was a teenager. I rode
Ooh,
motorcycles. I worked in an industry that was very fast paced, and I've kind of just had that like adrenaline type personality. Um, but I can't say that, like when you were saying, do I ever have insecurities? Yeah, like it's funny because a lot of people, or I should say, I don't realize sometimes that a lot of people perceive me a different way than how I perceive myself, right? And
uh,
so I get comments like that sometimes. They're like, "Oh, you're so confident. Oh, you're so,
yeah.
you know, assertive, or you're so whatever." And it's so funny because on the inside, like I grew up this poor, like literally we were so poor and like skinny and unattractive and not popular kid in
Really?
school. And yeah, I was such a little nerd. I was like anorexic skinny, like so tiny. And I got made fun of a lot because we were poor and I couldn't afford the good clothes. And like, it's those kind of things stick with you, you know? And so
Right.
a lot of times I'll catch myself now, like still comparing myself to somebody else on their outside, right? And not knowing what they're thinking on the inside. Maybe they're feeling the same way, but like I look at them and or a female saying, I'm like, God, I wish I looked like her. I wish I had this. And then I have to like back up because I'm like, okay, now you're just being selfish, like, cause you're doing okay, you know?
Right.
Um, but I can say that sometimes being vegan, it doesn't necessarily hurt my ego when people make fun of me, But what hurts is because I know animals are suffering as a result,
Right.
so it's like, okay, you can make your bacon jokes and blah, 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 and call me buff or whatever you want to use to like try to make fun of me. Cool. But like, also let's get past all the insults because I'd like to talk to you about what you're contributing to.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I didn't know that part about you, but I'll tell you that in my case, I now people look at the final product that people are looking at is this confident guy, whatever, fitness and all that. It takes years to develop that because imagine like I started veganism 20 years ago. So we're
Yeah.
talking now there was no Beyond Me back then. It was just like here's your tofu and then that's about it. So
Yeah.
it was a struggle. And then on top of that, I come from a culture that is like heavily like it's like I always tell people that like in the Spanish community or in Spanish culture, they have three major things. Then they have like a typical or the national dance music.
Mm-hmm.
They have the national costumes and they have the national food. So when you temper food and then now you said vegan food, they automatically like, dude, you literally ripping a piece of our heart or something because they
Mm-hmm.
so it's so engraved in their culture. It's like so heavy that when you talk about like you need to change the way you eat, they automatically is like, no, you literally that's an insult, bro. What are you talking about?
Yeah, yeah, and I can totally understand where you're coming from because I have a
Yeah,
lot of friends that are from either Central America or
right,
Mexico, South
right.
America. The Latin culture, especially, like there's so much family that's
Uh-huh.
associated. At, the dinner time, it's like mom and grandma are in the kitchen making tortillas and making sopas and making like this grand meal. And if you were to say, "Oh no, like sorry, I'm not eating that anymore,"
Uh-huh.
that's offensive. And
Correct.
that's one area that I can really empathize with because my background is German and Spanish. I don't The Spanish is a couple generations ago, so I don't
Yeah.
I don't really know much about that side, but the German
Yeah.
side is very heavy and
Oh yeah.
sausage and a bunch of meat as well. But I I don't know. I think it's just a lot of it was because I didn't have a super strong home. My dad left when I was young and then I
Yeah.
left not too long after that. And so for me there was no like, oh, I'm gonna offend someone, or oh, my culture, like I never really like felt like I fit that much in anyway, so it was
Right.
kind of like I'm doing my own thing anyway.
Right.
And now it's like, yeah, my parents are not vegan. My mom, they're
Mm-hmm.
divorced, but my mom is pretty healthy, like healthy for American standards. She eats a lot of plants. My dad is the complete opposite. He's
Right.
a giant bag of M&Ms from Costco and processed, junk food from whatever takeout or drive through or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. And he's also suffering with diabetes and high cholesterol, and he's got
Right.
hernias, and he's got, blah, blah, blah. I'm sure I don't even know about some of his issues. And he will kind of try to be cute and make a joke about me now about being vegan. And I'm like, Dad, like I don't even say this to him because I don't want it to be rude, but I'm like, look at your health. Like you're 150 pounds overweight and you're struggling,
Right.
and you're gonna make fun of me for eating right,
Right.
And it's kind of, now it's less sensitive for me because I'm like, whatever, Dad. Like it is what it is. But yeah, I didn't have that super strong connection there. So I know for me, like I know for a lot of people, it's really hard for them
Right.
to turn to veganism because they don't want to upset their family. But for me, I was like, whatever.
Yeah. It's like that meme with when you had the little kid eating the vegetable and the mom is like, eat your vegetable. But then when you turn older and then you're eating vegetable now as an adult, like, oh, what are you doing? What's your protein? And so all the
Hmm.
things happen. It's like, it's unbelievable how
Yeah.
society goes. Yeah, it's the same way. I mean, I always felt like I was the rebel of my family, right? Like I was going against the grain. Like um, uh, in my case, I left my mom's house, or I left my parents' house on my early 20s, kind of around the same time I turned vegan because I wanted to open a business somewhere else, like in a different city. And when I left, I was like living by myself, living my business and doing my own thing. And I grew dreadlocks, and my mom was like, "What's going on with you? Like, what kind of cult are you in? Now you don't eat meat. You got dreadlocks." It's like, what's going on? Like, where's my son? Like, the
Hmm.
devil took it. My parents got all freaked out, and then at
Yeah.
that point, I was like, you know what? F this, and I'm going to state. So I was like, what? Like, how's it gonna happen? So I moved. So, I always being that person, right? But the thing is, like, I realized now that I'm older that it was like I never wanted to be put in a box. I always wanted to be able to be free and branch out. Do you ever feel that way
Yes.
as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I mean, gosh, I don't want to turn this into a political podcast,
Let's
but with
do it.
everything that's going on, with everything going on right now in 2020, it's like, God, I just want the freedom to be
Right.
able to choose. Like, let's be responsible, cool, but like, it's insane what's happening right now. Like, I don't know how it is where you're at, but here it's
Mhm.
like we just got shut down again. Restaurants are shut down. We have a
Mhm.
curfew, which is the
Mm.
craziest thing I've ever heard of.
You have a curfew.
Yeah, 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. in California now. And there's people protesting it, but
Uh-huh.
I'm sorry, 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. And it's crazy because I see these
Yeah.
rights just being stripped away little by little.
Yeah.
And I know there's obviously many different beliefs on COVID and how
Right.
everything's going on. And so we don't need to talk about that. But it's just, even if we just look at the big picture and say it's as dangerous as the media is telling us, or as non dangerous as these conspiracy theorists are telling us, regardless of where it's at, I would still like my own freedom to make my own choices about my health. And when
Correct.
we start having this intervention from government, it kind of to me feels like the parents at home, no, you can't go out at night, you can't do this. And I'm like, okay,
Wait a minute.
all right.
Hey, Danielle, so what's your biggest fear?
Ooh, man, that's a good question. I don't think I've been asked that before. I would say honestly, failure, and I that's a hard word to say because like I don't think anybody's failed. Like as long
Right.
as you're doing something, you're still gaining something, right?
Right.
But I'd say failure in a way of like I would love to at some point be able to be doing more. When Veg Fest are open up again, and hopefully we could start speaking at events, and
Yeah.
hopefully the podcast can get better so I can reach more people. And that's really my biggest goal, is just trying to inform more people with what's going on. I also, this year I was planning on doing a fitness competition, a stage competition, but then when COVID happened I had to turn that down too. So there was like a lot of these things that I've been wanting to accomplish, and I'd say like my biggest fear, if I were to die like today, would
Right.
just be like, man, I didn't get to finish all these things I wanted to do. um I I think that, yeah, that would probably be it. I wish that we could spread veganism to more people.
Share to us a little bit of your happiness. Where your happiness come from?
Animals. Now, I'd say one of my biggest joys is to be able to go to animal sanctuaries and visit. There's a few here in San Diego that take in rescues or animals that were ditched from the fair or slaughter incidents or something like that. And it's so peaceful just being able to like sit with them and pet them. And I get a lot of joy. I feel like I have a pretty big connection with animals. And so
Yeah.
like, I'd rather hang out with them than people sometimes. Other than that, like the gym is definitely a big motivation. Ours got shut down again with this current shutdown, but that's one of my biggest things is every morning, wake up at 4:30 in the morning, go to the gym, get out, get dressed, go to work, and just start my day off right. And that's like, I don't know. It's been kind of hard lately because I'm like, well, I could try to do some home workouts, but it's not quite the same as going in. So I'd say that's a pretty big one too.
Yeah. Yeah. Now that you talk about the fitness part, let's talk about that a little bit. Since we both into fitness, tell me, how does the whole fitness passion came about? Like how you got involved in the whole fitness thing?
Gosh, that started a long time ago.
Yeah.
I like I had mentioned before, I used to compete in snowboarding when I was, I think I started at maybe 13 or 14. And prior to that, I was in dance team, I was in cheerleading. I mean, I had done, just like a lot of outdoor stuff as a kid. My grandma, I'd mentioned we grew up kind of poor, but my
Right.
grandma was awesome. And anytime a school event or something like that would cover, like cheer team came up, my grandma would step in and pay for it. So that was one area that I was really fortunate in. Um, Snowboarding, I mean, I was competing, and that kept me really busy and active for a while. And then I'd say after that, I think when I was 18 was the first time I got a gym membership, and I was
Mm-hmm.
going to 24-hour fitness in LA.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I was just really like obsessed with like being fit and just whatever, it felt really good to get into the gym all the time. And, I went through some issues in my 20s and that kind of fell off a little bit. But then I think now it's become such a, like I was saying earlier, such an important part of starting my day. So the most common thing I do now is just go to the gym in the morning. But before COVID, like I like doing those obstacle course races and doing more hikes and
Hmm.
just something, mentally, it's so good for you too.
Yeah, yeah, it is. And so you was trying to do, or you was thinking about doing a bodybuilding competition?
Yeah, I want to. I still want to keep it as a goal for next year.
Yeah,
It's funny because I mean, like I said, I'm partially German. I think my genetics has something to do with the way I build muscle because I've never like been on steroids or growth hormone or anything. And, no shame on that. I don't care if people do, but I've
right.
been accused of it before. And I'm like, no, I just honestly, I build muscle pretty easily. And because of that, I think it would be such a great platform to be vegan. And, you have all these like, oh, well, vegans have to take steroids or have to, okay, whatever.
Right.
And so I would love to do like a natural bodybuilding competition just to be like, look, I'm natural. I got tested, everything, whatever. And just to show people that it's possible.
Right. That's one of the main reasons why I started competing.
Yeah.
Because I was, first of all, I was tired of people saying, well, you cannot build muscle being a vegan. You cannot build muscle being a vegan. So, and the one thing about me is you challenge me and it's, I mean, I'll go for it.
Yeah.
I realized early this year that one of my skill set or one of my talents is competition.
Mm.
You go figure, right? So competition. So if you challenge me, then I'll take the challenge. So all right, well, you think it's not possible? Guess what? Watch me. So I
Yeah.
started training, and that's how I got into bodybuilding because I wanted to prove a point that vegans are not scrawny. Vegans, we can build muscle. And my biggest advocacy is that I build muscle while I'm vegan, not because I didn't bring my muscle from a conventional diet and then turn vegan.
Yeah.
I actually
That's a good
build it with
point.
plants. Yeah, I built it with plants. So it's like this is all I got. So what I got is built with tofu and broccoli and
Yes.
and seitan and whatever the case is. And it's not like I crossover. So for me, that was one of the main reasons why I decided, especially also like you mentioned, this is a good way to showcase that hey, you don't need to eat a bunch of animal protein to be on the highest levels of competition. You can still do it, and it helps because I think it brings a lot of help people bring a lot of awareness. I think a lot of people
Mm-hmm.
now be like, oh, wait a minute, this guy did it. I mean, it might be possible. Now let me listen to what he got to say. So I love that aspect of being a walking billboard for
Yeah.
the movement, and then my body literally speak the world, and
Yeah.
mostly. So I'm talking about it, but I'm also acting about it also. So it's kind of like a cool thing that we can use that other platform also to promote the movement and to promote the vegan lifestyle.
Do you wear vegan shirts at the gym a lot?
I do. I do.
Yeah, me
I
too.
do all the time. I got my face mask says 100% vegan.
All
and
right.
and
That's
my
cool.
my shirt says vegan all the time. I sometimes wear vegan socks. I mean, this I carry vegan all the way. And it's funny because with something so simple, people come and ask you questions. Like
Yeah.
I got guys approach me like, "Hey, what do you get your a question where you get your protein?" Oh, I'm vegetarian. I've been drinking whey. I'm like, wait a minute, what? No way, Jose. Come on now, get in
No
the
way.
game. Get in the game, buddy. So I started talking to them, and I used to be very militant. I was like, dude, what are you talking about? It's to be like that. I used to always tell people like I used to be Dr. Sebi when Dr. Sebi was not even cool, and I was like just getting started. I used to be
Yeah, I
very
think
militant. Mhm.
yeah, I think a lot of us go through that phase. And I mean, I did. I did. I was like, after I saw what I saw, I'm like, I just want to tell everyone. And then
Right.
a little while later I realized, well, this isn't what people want to listen to. So we got to change the approach a little.
Right. Yeah, then you have to change your approach. So now I'm still tough with it, but
Yeah.
I give it more facts and I think a lot more detail. And I'll let people kind of approach me. So it's not like I reached out to them and say, hey, you need to stop eating that. So
Yeah.
and I've seen that a lot to have more effect. So and it's ironic because or it's interesting because a lot of now I see that every information that you put out there, you don't know who's listening, But then somebody will reach out to you and say like, hey, I listened to this episode, I watched this video, I saw this picture, and I want to know a little bit more about it. I'm like, yes, let's go.
I love that. That's one of my biggest like things, because sometimes, I mean, you know how
Yeah.
it is when you're on this end of a podcast and you don't really know who your listeners are. Like, you might know who some of them are, but a lot of times, like, they're just numbers on your stats, right? You don't necessarily know who they are. And then
Right.
sometimes you'll get this random person that you've never seen before on Instagram, and they'll be like, hey, I heard this episode and I'm really trying to go vegan. And you're just like,
Yes.
yes.
That's awesome. Yeah, exactly. So, from your personality trait, which one you're the most proud of?
I don't know if this is a personality trait. I guess
Uh,
so. Empathy.
Empathy.
Um, and it's kind of a double-edged sword
Hmm.
because you feel a lot. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Like when you're empathetic, you open yourself up to feeling more love, but also feeling more pain. And so that's something that I've kind of learned to manage,
Yeah.
that, instead of getting angry and aggressive towards people, to just kind of learn understanding,
Hmm.
but still be able to understand, like if somebody's telling their story, to
Right.
be able to try to understand where they're coming from and be like, okay, I hear you, let's talk about this tomorrow, because that is one thing, is because I've had such a crazy life that sometimes I'll have empathy, but then
Mm.
I often have like a very small margin for sympathy, right? I'm like, all right, your life sucks, cool, let's get it together, like my life sucked, so like I figured it out and I went through some crazy crap, and the stuff that you're saying to me is nothing. And that's one thing that I'd say that's probably my worst character defect. But yeah, that's kind of the double side though, is it's like I have a lot of empathy. So I feel for animals, I feel for people, I try
Right.
to understand. But then on the other side, there's a part of me that's a little bit militant, and like not in the vegan way, but just in the like, what is your excuse? Like we have people that are vegan in small little towns in Mexico that are doing it, and
Yeah.
we're in America. So like there's no
Yeah.
excuse.
Yeah. I feel the same way too. Like, oh man, I don't know. We have a lot of things in common, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love snowboarding. I've never done snowboarding before, and that's on my bucket list. But I've been bungee jumping and I've been skydiving.
See, and those are on my bucket list. I haven't done those yet.
And yeah, I have a crazy story. Like, listen, okay, so this is my story. When I went skydiving, so I was the last guy. The last guy that was gonna jump was me. The guy told me, okay, so after you, nobody else is jumping. So I said, why? This is because we're running out of fuel. So that right there was a red flag, right? I was like, oh, okay, cool, no worries. Yeah.
Wow, that would have gotten me to jump.
So he said, okay. So he said, yeah, the only thing I need from you, well, of course, pay me. And then you need to sign this waiver. You have to sign the waiver that says you died. There's no way you can sue me, right? All right,
Yeah.
cool. So I signed, all right, no, cool. So the guy was like, all right, well, so I'm going to give you a little written down what we're going to do, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, yes, that's cool. So we got on the plane. We went up there. I don't remember how high we went, but we went up there. And then he said, listen, this plane is a lot smaller. You're pretty tall. I'm 6'2", so you're pretty tall. So this is what I need you to do. I'm gonna open the door. I want you to get on the wind, right? And then hold yourself up. I want you to duck, and then I want you to lean forward. And I'm gonna come from behind, and I'm gonna clip you. And then when I say 1, 2, 3, on three, you release yourself, and we jump. And I was like, okay, that's it? Yeah, that's what you need to do. All right, no problem. Let's do it. So he opened the door. I did exactly what he told me to do. He clicked me. He counted 3. We jumped. We free falling. He released the parachute. And then we started gliding in the air, right? So he said, remember when you land, you got
Yeah.
to make sure that your landing is kind of smooth. So I was like, okay, no problem. So we landed and everything was fine. So when we got off the plane, we were like, how you felt? Like we were just talking about it. Adrenaline was pumping. So I was like, yeah, that was awesome. That was great. Yeah, great time. So then I got home and started thinking, wait a minute, what did I just did?
Yeah.
What? I was like, wait a minute. So I have been telling all these people that, oh yeah, I jump out of a plane and this and how it is. I'm like, dude, you're crazy. Like, you know that when you jump on a plane, you have to clip yourself inside the plane, not outside the plane. I was like, oh, how do I know? I've never done this before.
That's so crazy. I'm afraid of heights. Like I would do skydiving just to say I did it, but I am like, I feel like I'd pass out. Like
So I was like, wait a minute, he said you're supposed to clip yourself inside the plane and then jump. I'm like, I don't know any better. I just did. Imagine if I would just slip, like if I would have slipped when I was just trying to get to the wind.
Ugh.
I don't know. It would have been a movie. Like he would have had to jump and then try to get me and then click me. And I
Right.
mean, I don't know. It was a James Bond movie type of deal. That was the crazy. That's the craziest thing. I was like, I was borderline gonna kill myself without even knowing. And I already signed
Oh.
the waves, so nobody can sue this guy.
Oh, at least you wouldn't have known, I guess, besides
Yeah.
for a second before you fell.
Yeah, I know. Oh boy. So yeah, that was one of my craziest story. And when I went bungee jumping, I did it here in Dallas. They have a place called the Zero Gravity Park. So you have like all these cool like bungee jumping. They have a bunch of like free falling. They have a bunch of like roller coasters. It's like an adult park. So I go bungee jumping, right? And so you have to climb all the way up, and then you reach up, and it's just like a they clip you in at this time. We'll make sure I got clipped in. I got my harness on, everything on, and so once you're there, the guy was like, all right, well, yeah, jump down there. That's it. You just gotta jump. And like I'm like, what? That's it? Like you're not gonna tell me a story? No, no, just jump. And said, well, you got two options. Or you either jump or you go down the stairs. That's it. I mean, there's no other way down. So you're looking down, you're like, oh, should I jump? Should I jump? I have a video. I'm gonna send it to you. That should jump. Well, then finally, I was like, just do it. Let me just do it. So I just did it, and yeah, it was a great sensation. So yeah,
Nice.
I gotta get there, but people don't know. But I do love doing all the same roller coasters. Like anything that is adrenaline rush, I'm
Mm-hmm.
up for it.
Me too. Me
I'm
too.
up for it. I'm up for it.
I'm a little afraid of the heights, but I would try it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So, what are some tips for people that you want to be more in tune with self-discovery and self-awareness? What are some things that you have done that work for you, things that we can implement in our life? Not necessarily from
Mm.
a vegan standpoint, from a macro, anything that is self-discovery, self-awareness related that you can give us to shed some light on that.
It's in this generation, in this decade,
Mm-hmm.
whatever, social media has been such
Mm,
an influence on people, and good and bad, right? Like
yeah.
it's a way that we spread our podcast and our veganism and everything. But I think it also sets up people for quote unquote failure. I think it sets up
Mm,
people with artificial standards, especially when you have teenagers, young girls. I remember how impressionable I was, at 14, 15. I mean, I still am now, just maybe not quite as bad, but I'll
yeah.
catch myself even now looking through Instagram and I'm like, God, that girl's body's perfect. Like if I only, was a little bit skinnier or a little this, little that, whatever. And I'm like, okay, stop. Like you can appreciate that she's pretty, but like don't compare yourself. Like we're all
Right.
different, right? Um, that I mean, I can't imagine what it would be like being 15 having Instagram now. Like it's crazy. Um, and a lot of times too, I think people, men and women, we compare our insides with other people's outsides and vice
Mm,
versa, right? So like I'm feeling crappy today and this girl looks really hot. Oh, now I feel like crap. Well, you don't know what she feels like. You don't know what
right.
her story is. Everybody looks good on Instagram. It's easy to have filters or Photoshop or whatever you want to do.
Right.
Or smile, that could be fake too, but we don't know how people are really feeling. So I think like one of the biggest things that I think I've learned through a lot of this process, not relating to veganism, but just through all the things that I've been through in my life is just
Yeah.
just be you, and I know that's so cliche and so many people say that, but it's like don't try to be whatever person with 500,000 followers and this waist size and this bust size and all this stuff. Like, just be you. You are attractive. You do have something to offer. Just do it in your way. Like, don't copy someone else. And I'd say one thing that I definitely am not very good at, but it's something that I'm improving now on is something like meditation. Like,
Mm,
even if it just means sitting quietly for 5 minutes every morning before you get ready, or turning off the TV when you get home for 5 minutes. Like, I think one of the another words we hear thrown around a lot is like conscious eating, right? Like, and even if you're already eating vegan, I noticed this was something that I would do too. Is like, oh well, I only have 10 minutes to eat. Just shove everything in my face so I could get out the door. And
right.
it's like, well, no. Let's pay attention. Let's actually taste the flavors in the food. Let's be mindful, right? I think mindfulness is another big catchy phrase right now, but really like, what does that mean? Like appreciating, where did this food come from? Did a farmer, how long ago did he plant the seeds for, this tomato? And then that tomato got transferred to either a supermarket or a farmer's market or whatever. And then now it's on your plate. Like there was a lot of work and sweat and tears that went into that plant that made your tomato, right? So let's not just throw it away and not taste it, or, whatever. And so I that's something I think I've learned a lot more of now, is like not just taking things for granted, whether it's food, a home, relationship, animals, whatever any of those things are, is just really being mindful and appreciating everything that we have, because we only have one shot in this world. So
That's beautiful. You almost made me
oh,
cry,
thanks.
Danielle.
It's very little that I let my walls down.
But one thing is, I recently started changing my morning routines, right? And it comes down to what was you saying. And a friend of mine always used to tell me, like, Roger, you need to start meditating, because I've never been an anxious person. I've also been very calm and collect. But believe it or not, and I'm gonna be honest about this, like my body, when I'm going through like a lot of stress, a lot of tension, my body's react. Like something, my body tells me like I can tell based on my body's reaction, either I get some kind of pimple or something happens in my body.
Yes.
My body say like, dude, you gotta chill out, basically, because right now you're going through a lot of stress, especially if it's a financial issue or something is related to
Mm-hmm.
those lines. My body reacts right away. So I was like, well, if that's the case, maybe I need to take some supplements. So my first reaction was, okay, what do I need to take to be able to feel to cure that or whatever, or to kind of
Yeah.
disguise that. But that's not attacking the issue from the root. That's not the root
No.
cause. So meditation has been so helpful for me right now. So I added that to my morning routine. Wake up. I'm not. It's funny because even though I use social media as a platform to kind of showcase the podcast and my fitness journey and all that, I stay away from social media for a period of time. Mostly, I only use it when I'm posting or when I'm doing
Yeah.
something like that. And the same way with TV, I try to stay away from those things. And I'm not saying this because I'm telling you all to do it, that this needs to be done. This is what I'm saying that I do as far as myself that has worked for me. And the one of the things that I implemented was meditation. So I wake up in the
Yeah.
morning, I start doing my meditation, and I start my day with a clear mindset. My mind is clear.
Yeah.
I feel better. Of course, I work on eating a more whole food plant based. And that's another change that I made on my diet because hey, I was vegan for the animals, so I can eat whatever. I can eat 20 odd if I wanted to, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I get that.
um, so speaking of that, this is probably will be my last question. Speaking of that, do you think that from a vegan standpoint, and this is talking to vegans now, there are ethical vegans, they're all about animal rights and all about having a better planet as well, but their health is not a major
Mm.
aspect of that. So now we
Mm-hmm.
have the flip side, right? We have the ones that only eat plant because they want to take care of their health and don't care about the animals, but they're the ones that only focus on the animal aspect, but they don't focus on their health. So what message do we give those actually too?
That's a question I hardly ever hear being asked to anyone. I know it's a really good question though, because I think we're probably on the same page with the answer here. But
Right.
okay, I'll preface this with, it's your body, it's your choice, right?
Right.
Especially if you're not harming animals. If you're eating vegan junk food all day, what does that have anything to do with me, right? Like you do you. then, then there's the other side though that says, well, because I have a few friends that are severely overweight that are vegan, that have been
Mhm.
vegan for a while. And I would never say this to them because I don't know of a nice way to say it, but it's sending a bad message, I think is the best way to put it. That if you like, that's great, you're saving animals, but like you still have you're still obese. You still probably have heart disease. You still maybe not high cholesterol because depending on what
Right.
you're eating, but like
Correct.
who knows, right? But you're obviously physically unhealthy, and anybody who's over a certain percentage of body fat, regardless of
Right.
what your diet is, you're suffering on the inside. Your body is paying the price for that.
Correct.
And it's hard for me. Like I remember I kind of had to learn a little bit of compassion and understanding in this situation. I had done Anonymous for the Voiceless one time a couple years ago, and I was there with a friend who's very overweight, and I just remember thinking like, gosh, we're standing out here speaking to people and we're trying to encourage them. We're trying to be these like little beacons of hope, right? Like these idols, so to speak, of veganism to get people to jump on board. But if someone looks at you and says, well, I don't want to look like that,
Mm-hmm.
why? Or it's the same with people that are too skinny. Like, and I mean it in an unhealthy way, like not cutting for a competition, but like you're just skinny because you're just skinny. Maybe you're raw vegan, maybe, maybe it's just your genetics. I don't know. But when you're so thin, you fit that stereotype of like, see, all vegans are malnourished and skinny. And I know not everybody can build muscle as easy as maybe you and I can.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think like if you have the opportunity to at least get into a more normal range, if you're super overweight, get down a little bit, because
Right.
not only do we want you here to keep speaking about the animals, but we also want you to look like something someone wants to be. People tend to follow what they, with their eyes more than their ears.
Right.
Yeah. So it's like they see something and they're like, oh no, they won't even hear what you have to say. So
Yeah. They
yeah.
they'll pay more attention to the good looking Roger and beautiful Danielle than if whatever the case is. It shouldn't be that way, but that's the
Yeah.
reality. That, like you said, people, and it's the same way with food. I mean, if your food looks appealing, it will resonate more to people than if
Yeah.
you have an ugly looking food, for example. And I mean, that doesn't take away the flavor, but that's what people see, because I like the visual part is what, that's why we got Instagram, because it's visual. That's why we got video,
Yeah.
because it's visual. Everything that is visual creates more attraction, more, it kind of catch people's eye. That's why YouTube is doing great, because it's all visual. It's, again, that's people, it's just what caught people's attention right away. So
I
then,
like
yeah,
that you said that because it just made me think. I also get irritated when people post photos of like vegan food and it looks terrible. I'm
horrible.
like, oh, you guys, like at least put some better lighting. Like this looks like something that people think we eat,
Right. Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. And it's not helping the cause, not at all.
No,
But
I'm like, just don't take a picture.
yeah, I totally agree with you. Actually, for me, when I started, and I'm not saying that, like you said, I agree with you in the sense that all type of activisms are important, and it's, we want you to take care of your health, regardless. If you don't have to be a bodybuilder or a bikini competitor, but just take care of your health, because the better your health is, individually, we also make a bigger impact. And then, like you said, we want you here so we can all be healthy, and take advantage of the lifestyle. Especially like veganism will give you so many benefit, right? And then you can have a healthy life, without having to do much. I mean, how many people
Mm-hmm.
lose weight which by just cutting like meat and some other, and dairy, especially dairy.
Dairy, yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Eh,
that's huge.
That's
I know
huge.
it's like I think if people like sometimes I get people say, "Well, if I had to cut out one thing, what would you recommend?" Of
Right.
course, I'd love for you to cut them all out, but dairy, I mean, that's my number one. Like, not only because of the cruelty in the industry, but how inflammatory it is in your body, and most people can't even digest dairy anyway. So it's
That's
like
right.
just get rid of that, and then we'll work on the other stuff later.
My mom told me that when I was a baby, they couldn't give me cow milk because I was allergic to cow milk. Like, ah,
That's my mom told me the same story. And when I was a
really?
kid growing up, we used to drink rice milk because I was allergic to milk. I'm like, well, yeah, now I'm realizing I'm like, hey, mom, I was allergic because I'm not a cow, right?
I told my mom, like, I was born to be vegan. Guess what?
Yeah, right.
Hey, Zania, so any future projects? If not, then just plug your podcast, your social media. Where can we follow you? If they're not following you, then they're gonna absolutely follow you now. So,
Thank you so much, Roger. So Instagram, vegan_Danielle. If you go to my website, vegandanielle.com, it has all those links. There's also links to the podcasts that are on there as well. It's pretty simple. It's just Vegan Danielle podcast. I kept it all the same. And gosh, I guess that's it. Technically, I'm on Facebook, but I don't ever go on Facebook, so it doesn't really matter. But as far as like upcoming projects, I think you and I were talking a little off air, and I really enjoy writing, and I've had kind of a crazy story. And so I did start writing a book. I haven't actually picked it up in a little bit, but that is a goal of mine, is to finish that. So I got to start that up again, and definitely be letting everyone know once it's out, because I think people are going to be a little shocked. But yeah, aside from that, I mean, the podcast is probably the biggest thing I have going on, outside of my regular job. So
awesome. Thank you so much, Danielle.
Thank you.
You've been great.
Gracias por escuchar Latino y Vegano, un show donde se habla todo lo relacionado sobre el veganismo entre la comunidad latina. No olviden suscribirse a este podcast, seguirnos en Instagram, Facebook, YouTube y a visitarnos en latinoyvegano.com.